Hi, everybody. Welcome back. So, I had a lot of topics prepared to speak about. I have a whole list of things that I would like to talk about on this podcast that I feel like could be really helpful to you. I went through that list last night. Well, not last night, yesterday, as I was, doing my prep to record today. And I was like, I don't want to talk about any of these things. Like, I felt uninspired. Nothing felt exciting. It just felt very flat. And I was like, you know what? I feel kind of flat right now, actually. I feel kind of uninspired. So rather than force myself to talk about something that I don't feel like talking about right now and give you an episode that would probably be good as far as information, but you would probably be able to tell that I didn't actually give a shit what I was talking about in that moment. I'm going to talk to you about feeling flat and feeling blah and feeling like honestly low level burned out because that's like sort of where I operate most of the time. You're like, wow, this is really inspiring. No, but I think when we think about burnout, we think about, when we crash and burn, like when I tried to quit my career in 2022, 21, 2021. That's burnout. Like when I'm like, I cannot spend one more minute at this job or I'm going to implode. But there's like a low level of burnout fatigue that can happen on a day-to-day basis. And I think like until we acknowledge it, it just kind of continues to chip away at us. And so I sat there and I asked myself a series of questions and then I like bracketed them into two buckets of business and training because I feel like those are the two areas of my life that I am most prone to burnout. And I kind of just, it was like eye opening. So I'm going to go through that with you all. And then like maybe you can do it with me. I think that would be a fun idea. Not necessarily with business and training, but maybe for you, it's like, I don't know, exercise and work, parenting. I don't know. You pick. Let me come up with more bad ideas to give to you. So, okay, let me get my list because I didn't memorize this. Okay, so the first question I asked myself was, am I bored? Because oftentimes that low level burnout can come from boredom. And like, yes, we all have to do things that are kind of boring, like in different aspects of our lives. Like, it's not just going to be fun all the time. But I feel like there's like an acceptable level of boring, like that you can live with. And then there's like I feel like I have been doing the same thing forever and I need to switch it up type of boring. And so when I asked myself that with my business, I was like, yes, I am bored. I have been stuck on the same thing for too long. Now, to be clear, I'm not bored with my business. I love my business. There is an aspect of my business that I have worked on for the better part of this year. And at times it has been fun. And then at times it has been absolutely soul sucking. And that would be messaging, meaning developing a brand and really refining how I'm going to deliver my message and what that message is. And it might sound obvious, but it's actually a lot more complex than you might think. And that's what I've learned. And it can be really frustrating because it's like this crazy thing of like you write it all down and you're like, this is fantastic. And then you put it out into the world and you see what happens. And you either get like good, neutral, or bad feedback. And then you go back to the drawing board if you need to. Or you write it all down and then you look at it again like a month later and you're like, what the fuck is this? This is terrible. But the point being is it's been something that has like been in the corner of my mind for so many months now that it's kind of starting to piss me off because it's like, I don't know. I'm just tired of thinking about it, quite frankly. And I that's not to say that it's not important, but that is to say that it's giving me a little bit of burnout. And it's one of those things where if I don't just set it down, it's going to get bigger and it's going to grow and it's going to drive me insane. And then that's when like the real crash and burnout comes. So that's been my thing in business is like messaging and branding. In my training, it's been the half marathon. I trained for a half marathon the better part of last year. And then we all know how that went. My dog passed away like 3 weeks before. I was a mess. I didn't take a shower for a week. I went into the half marathon. I thought I was gonna like set a record because I was going so fast in the beginning, and then I flamed out at like mile 9. And yeah, so that was really great. So I started training for another half marathon in January. That one was in April. Again, not a great experience. And then I've had my sights set on one in the fall since because in Florida, it's hot as fuck. So you have to be really calculated about when you're going to race here, which I learned by trying to race in late April. And I think my heart rate was 200 as soon as I crossed the start line. So I have been in half marathon training for most of the year. And there is a difference between running a race and racing a race. When you are training just to run it, there's not a lot of pressure. I mean, there's some, sure, like you want to finish, but you're not necessarily doing speed work, intervals, threshold workouts, things that make you start praying to whatever God you believe in or whatever God you just discovered that you believe in that moment. When you are training to race a race, you have specific time goals. The training becomes tied to that. It becomes much more specific. So it goes from being broad of like just putting in the mileage to, okay, how do we develop your weaknesses? How do we support your strengths? So on and so forth. And so while my mileage has not been insanely high, in fact, most people who train for half marathons would probably be like, no, that's actually low. For me, it's been draining because I don't like to run the same way that other people do. Like, it doesn't bring me joy to just go out for a run every day. I run 3 to 4 days a week, and that's good enough. And also, when you're doing those workouts that are really fucking hard and specific to a pace and really test you physically and mentally, that shit's draining. And a lot of times it doesn't go well. And that's also draining. Like I saw somebody like a real I'm like a real bona fide runner, a real runner who she, is fairly high level, and she even posted something the other day that was like 33% of your workouts will be great, 33% will be okay, and 33% will suck. That's a lot of workouts to feel shitty about. So, with that said, I've been tired of training for the half marathon. I have my race in a few weeks in November. I'm hoping for a PR. And then it's like, girl, we need to switch it up because this is exhausting. And it's not even like the specific, yeah, there's hard workouts that come with racing, but it's like specific to this distance. And I know that I'm being a little whiny bitch right now because there are people that make a career, a life out of training for a specific distance, and they do that all the time. That ain't me, okay? Your girl's probably gonna switch down to a 10K or 5K after this because I don't want to run 13 miles anymore. I really don't. I don't know how people like go run 20 miles on a Saturday and then they go parent. I run 10 miles and I want to lay on the couch for the rest of the day. So that's on that's on am I bored and have I been stuck doing the same thing for too long? The second question that I asked myself was, am I neglecting something that is also important to me? And is that adding to the burnout? And obviously, the answer to all of these is yes, because I wouldn't be feeling flat and like, meh, if the answer was no. I mean, I guess the answer doesn't have to be yes to all of them, but in my case, it was. Um, so in my business, and this is not the case anymore, but this was the case maybe like 1 to 2 months ago. I felt Like I was spending so much time and energy on my business that I didn't have a lot of energy or patience to be in my business. And what I mean by that is I was spending all of my mental bandwidth on marketing, lead generation, messaging, branding, admin, expenses, all that shit, legal stuff. That when it came down to actually doing the thing that I started the business to do, which is working with clients, like there was very little room left in my brain at the end of it. And I was still delivering on everything. Like, don't get me wrong. And I still deeply cared about my clients, but I could just feel this imbalance in my brain. And so I made the intention to shift that because at the end of the day, I don't have a business without my clients. They always come first. They should always come first, and they should always get the best part of me. So I switched some things in my schedule to make sure that I was showing up with the energy and the intention that made me feel good about the product and the service I was delivering. And on top of that, that just made everything else better. So, yeah, that was a big one for me. And it comes with the territory. Like you don't get to be a solo business owner and not spend most of your time on the business because guess what? There's nobody else to do it. Um, that being said, like I said, it doesn't exist without the people inside of it. So I am in a much better place with that, and I'm much happier with that, and I feel that in my soul. In my training, yeah, same. I've been so focused on this running this half marathon that I feel like my strength has like not been where I want it to be. I don't want to say it's like gone to shit, but it's just plateaued. And that's been really frustrating. I I don't like it. That's yeah, so I mean that definitely adds to my burnout a little, like my mental burnout because I go through these strength workouts and I'm trying really hard and I'm showing up with intention, but I'm not seeing the benefit. Like I'm not reaping the reward. And so that's been really tough. And it makes it a little bit harder to feel motivated day in and day out. The third question that I asked myself is, do I have information overload slash decision fatigue? And obviously the answer is yes. Okay. Like, duh. In business, like, no shit. Okay. Like, I didn't go to school for marketing, for accounting, for law, for any of the things that I now wear at least a tiny hat to do. So, sure, yeah, it's a little bit of overload and decision fatigue. It's like, when you all approach your fitness journey or whatever else, health, and there's a million different things out there, and half of them are conflicting, and you don't know who to trust, and you don't know what to invest your time, your money, and your energy into. That's how I feel all the time. It's like you have one person saying, like, social media marketing is the best. Somebody else is saying it's emails. Somebody else is saying you need to have funnels. Somebody else is saying no, you don't. Someone else is saying Instagram's dead. Somebody else is saying TikTok doesn't work. Somebody else is saying you need to be on LinkedIn. So you see what I'm saying? Like, and you're like, I'm not an expert in this. I see people supposedly having success in all of these things that you're saying is the best or that works. And I don't know which one's the right one. And I don't know where to go. So, like you got to weed through it. You have to do your research and you have to find somebody that you trust and hope that they're actually trustworthy. Wow, I got out of breath just talking about that. So, yeah, do I have decision fatigue in business? Like, yeah, no shit. But also in training. And I'm a professional. I have three different degrees, higher education in different aspects of exercise and performance. Yet I'm sitting here and I've been having this fatigue, this like soreness, this like lack of ability to recover for most of the year. And I'm sitting here being like, why is everything feeling terrible? Is this the right plan? Am I broken? Is my coach broken? Like, do I need new shoes? And again, as somebody who has a lot of knowledge in these areas and I'm still struggling to figure it out, like that just goes to show how complex these things can be. But that's also exhausting. It's exhausting to have to think about that constantly, to feel like you're trying things that aren't working. And I know that you resonate with this right now because it happens to us in like literally every area of our life. So you just got to keep going. That's all I have to say. Keep turning over rocks and keep asking questions and seeking out support and advice from people whom you maybe haven't been. Like you might just need another opinion. And eventually that's what I did with my training. I was like, I this can't be due to like the volume. I know that's not what it is. I tried switching up order of exercises on certain days, like try to take off some of the eccentric load. Like I'm not going to bore you with all that. Nothing was working. I finally went to the doctor because I made an appointment in March and they decided that now was the time that I could go. Did some blood work, even though he was like, I don't think you really need blood work. Like, you seem like a pretty healthy person. And I was like, give me the blood work. Got my results back. Everything was normal. However, just because something is normal doesn't mean it's optimal, right? So, when we're looking at normal blood work, and I'm not a doctor, so just take this with a grain of salt, but I do have knowledge on the subject. When we're looking at blood work and we see normal, that is for just like a average person existing. This is for health. This is for like reducing the risk of mortality, right? But that doesn't mean that your numbers can't be better to make you feel better, right? Because I can be at like the bottom end of normal and I'm still normal, but I may not be feeling my best. So what I saw is like I have a history of, having low iron, being anemic, etc. Well, my iron was normal, my hemoglobin, etc. was normal. My ferritin was normal, but looking at it and knowing what is normalized for female endurance athletes, it was quite a bit low. So it was about, I think, 29 or 30. You want that to be 50 or higher to be more optimal. So that could certainly explain some of those recovery issues. It's not showing up on the blood work because it's not going to track till I think it's under like 10 or 12 or something. But that doesn't mean with the level of training that I'm doing that it's not going to have adverse effects. And then the other thing was, I don't know if y'all remember when I tracked my macros for a week. Well, my big bozo head, and this is just like, come on, Alicia, not all calories are created equal. They are in the sense when it comes to fat loss or weight gain, we do need to be in a deficit or a surplus. But again, when it comes to quote unquote optimizing performance, we might need to switch up that macronutrient makeup a little bit. Okay. So for me, I remembered I was like, oh, my carbs were around 200. And I had felt like there was nothing really wrong with that because that's what I had eaten previously. But I wasn't putting it in the context of, hey, you're a runner now. You're running close to 30 miles a week. You might need more carbs. And I did know that because I acknowledged it and I had said like my fat was a little higher and my carbs, like I wanted to switch that macronutrient distribution a little bit. But yeah, it was just funny because I I went and I like did some quick calculations and I was like, oh yeah, I need to be like closer to 300 to 400 grams of carbs a day. But in my head, I was like, well, I'm maintaining my weight, so I'm obviously getting enough energy. And like two things can be true. Like I can be getting enough energy, but I might not be getting enough of the right energy. Like my glycogen stores are screaming. So it's like, yeah, I'm not saying I need more calories, but I probably need to bring the fats down a little bit and up the carbs to feel better and recover better. So there was that. And then my last question was, am I being dramatic? And the answer is yes. So, like, I was having a moment yesterday where I was like, does anybody even care what I have to say? Like, does anyone care about fitness? Like, does my training even matter? Like, no, I'm not a professional athlete. Like, I'm actually like pretty slow. No one cares about me. Was I being dramatic? Yeah. And getting yourself worked up like that. And then going into like a full on existential crisis of like, does anything matter is a really good way to kind of, you know, stoke that fire of being burnt out. So once I kind of like, again, did this for the sake of the episode and wrote all those things down and identified that, that already helped immensely because I could see it right there on paper of like, yeah, girl, this is why you're feeling the way that you are or have been. So then it's like, okay, well, what actionable steps can I take? So, I mean, you have to check boxes of what needs to be done, right? Like, I can't sit here and be like, okay, well, these things in my business don't inspire me, so I'm not going to do them. Like, no, girl, you got to pay the IRS. Okay. Um, it's just, it is what it is. I don't always love doing programs. Like, I do to an extent, but some weeks when I have a ton of new programs I have to write, I'm like, that can kind of drain me because I put a lot of time and care and effort into it. So it's like you do have to check the boxes, but you can also pivot where you can. So this episode, for example, I had all the episodes prepared for training, nutrition, etc. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to complain for like 30 minutes instead. I think I'm just going to do that. And that felt great, feels great because I'm like, one, I get to talk about what I'm feeling right now. This feels more aligned to me than if I were to sit here and talk to you about, I don't know, some motivational theory or macronutrients. So, and then the other thing is like when there is this low level kind of burnout or like fatigue with something that you're doing, knowing that there's an end date and shifting goals. So with the half marathon, it's like, yes, I am burned the fuck out of this training. However, the race is on November 16th. Okay. And then guess what? I don't have to train for a half marathon anymore. Same thing with in business. It's like, yeah, I am really tired of working on my messaging. Okay, well then don't for a little bit. In fact, that might be better for your business, Alicia. Run with the messaging you have. Put it out there long enough to see if it's working or not, and then switch if you need to. Like, it's not that serious. It's not that serious. And then stop being dramatic, okay? Like, people do care, obviously. You know, I might get like one listener per episode, or I might get 30. Like, when I had my podcast a few years ago, I was getting close to 100 every episode. 100 people who wanted to hear me babble. That's insane. I'm not quite there anymore, but we will be. People care, okay? People care about what I have to say. It feels like they don't sometimes. And you might feel that too. And my training feels unimportant sometimes. And maybe in the grand scheme of life, like it is unimportant, but it's still important to me. I still care about it. And sometimes we just have to make things important. Stop being dramatic. And then lastly, it's like about identifying what's most important. So, what needs my mental bandwidth the most? Okay. And like, that's exactly what I did with my clients. That it's not even that they necessarily needed my mental bandwidth because I wasn't showing up the way that I wanted to, but it was like I needed to give that so I could feel good about where I was at and the product that I was delivering on. Again, like they may not have even noticed. And so do exactly what I did, which is time or task block around that. Dedicate like these days of the week, this time in the morning is going to be 30 minutes for that, an hour for that, etc. And ask yourself if analyzing everything is preventing you from taking action and if that's at all helpful. So again, going back to my messaging, okay, you're going to sit here and you're going to analyze it into the ground. Okay, your workouts. You're going to sit here and analyze them into the ground. Sometimes we just have to do and then look at the data and then we can make a better decision. Because you can sit here and do analysis all day, but if you're not doing analysis on data, then it's like kind of pointless. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah, that is what I have to say today about if you're just like feeling flat, if you're just feeling uninspired, unmotivated, like just low level burnt out going through the motions. Like ask yourself those four questions. Are you bored because you've been stuck on the same thing for too long? Are you neglecting something else that is also important to you to achieve this thing and that's adding to it? Do you have information overload, decision fatigue? And are you being dramatic? Okay. And see where you say yes and how you can get out of it by prioritizing, by doing instead of preparing. What do they call it? Procrastinating. I love to procrastinate. So, thank you guys for letting me just get all that off my chest today. No, but I think it's important to like, when I first started this podcast, I really centered it around mental health and showing up as the person that I am while also recognizing, you know, being a professional, being an athlete, being all of those things, but knowing that the foundation, the fundamental human that you are is what always comes first and making sure we're taking care of that. And so I feel like this episode really kind of fully circles back to that because at the end of the day, these low level burnout things are happening because I'm not taking care of the fundamental person that I am. And I'm putting the professional stuff and I'm putting the training stuff first. So, hope you guys enjoyed this. Um, Rate, review, subscribe, send it to a friend, do whatever you want with it. I love you guys so much, honestly. Whether four people listen to this episode or 400, I just want to let you guys all know that it really means a lot to me. I'm going to get a little sappy for a second. I think about frequently all of the people that have helped me build what I have today, and knowing that it's still very much in its early stages and it's only going to continue to grow. And when it does, I am never going to forget the people that have been there from day one. Like the first clients that I've had, the first 50 clients that I've had. Um, because I just think that's such a cool thing to have people that believe in you and that invest into like this dream that you have. And I think it's awesome. And if you have something, if you have a product, if you have anything like that that you would like me to support or that I can support in any way, please reach out because I adore supporting my friends in business. So that's all I've got for today. Love y'all, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh, and if there's anything you guys want to hear me talk about, feel free to send me a message. Okay. Love ya. Bye.